and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and in this segment today, we are going to discuss about the Geneva Convention. This topic is important from the perspective of preliminary examination and also from the perspective of GS Mains Paper 2nd and 4th GS Mains Paper 4. So, these are the many topics that we are going to discuss under it. We will also discuss under this particular heading, there will be a subheading with respect to India and Geneva Convention. Okay, so let's move forward and talk about why is it in the news. Evidence is being gathered with respect to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. War crime is being alleged on Russia and being said that because of many reasons, Russia is violating the Geneva Convention. That is why we are going to discuss it. So, if we talk about a brief history of what is Geneva Convention, the Red Cross Society is relevant to it, whose founder Henry Dunant, he visited the Battle of Solferino in 1859 and saw the pathetic condition of the combatants as well as the non-combatants in the war. He thought about bringing into a convention with respect to the conduct of the conflicting parties during a war, so that both the combatants and non-combatants, they can have a proper humane treatment. So, amelioration of the wounded in the time of war in 1864. This, by the name of this, a code came into existence. So, the 1864 convention was ratified by majority of the, in fact, all of the European countries with respect to the agreement. Yes, this codification can be done with respect to wars. Then amended and extended it was by the second Geneva Convention in 1906 and the third Geneva Convention, which was the convention relating to the treatment of prisoners of war, required that the belligerents, who were the belligerents? The belligerents who are actually with relation to the parties who are in the conflict, they should treat the prisoners of war humanely. Also, they should furnish information about them and permit official visits to prison camps by representatives of neutral states. So, an International Red Cross conference also took place in Stockholm in 1948. It extended and codified the existing provision, and the conference developed 4 conventions. These were 4 different treaties, and that was approved in Geneva on August 12, 1949, hence the name Geneva Convention. So, 4 different treaties were put together, and those were brought into a code by the name of Geneva Convention, and other 3 additional protocols were framed, of which 2 were framed in 1977 and another one was framed in 2005, and these were widely accepted ethical and moral or legal international standards for humanitarian treatment of the people who have been impacted by the ongoing war. And the treatment of non-combatants and prisoners of war was the main challenge, because people who are in the war, there of course they are ready well enough, that was commanded to them to pick up the arms and have a clash. But what about those who never chose the war to happen? Mostly civilians, okay, not the use of conventional or biological and chemical weapons, okay, and the use of which is governed by respectively by the Hague Convention and the Geneva Protocol. All these were also dealt with. Moving on, if we talk about the first Geneva Convention, it protects the wounded and sick soldiers, the combatants, and also extends to medical and religious personnel as well. Remember this for prelims, okay. It extends to medical and religious personnel as well, medical units and medical transport. A draft agreement relating to hospital zones, okay, and a model identity card for medical and religious personnel is also there. With respect to second Geneva Convention, it protects the wounded, sick and shipwrecked military personnel, okay, at sea during the war. So, remember which convention relates to the shipwreck? It's the second convention. Hospital ship and medical transport are also a part of it, which transports by sea, and with specific commentary on the treatment of and protection for their personnel as well. The third convention, the prisoners of war, humane treatment, maintenance and equality, which is across the prisoners, condition of their living as well is dealt with, and questioning and evacuation of prisoners, transit camps, food, clothing, medicine, hygiene, and rights to even religious, intellectual and physical activities of prisoners are also. So you can see how comprehensive it is. It just does not talk about the physical arena, but also moves beyond physicality. It goes to mental and then spiritual as well. So this is the comprehensiveness of Geneva Convention. That is why it is very important. And the fourth Geneva Convention, it protects civilians. In this case, of course, Ukraine and Russia, Ukrainian civilians are related to this particular convention, including those in occupied territory, right? So, along with the additional protocols of 1977, the fourth convention expounds upon general protection of the population, which is failing right now, because although the military establishments were struck when the war started, but collateral damage was there, and the conduct of hostilities, the status and treatment of protected person, all this is dealt with the protocols, along with the protocols of the fourth convention. Distinguishing between the situation of foreigners is also there on the territory of one of the parties to the conflict, and that of civilians in occupied territory. Obligation of the occupying power is also dealt with vis-a-vis the civilian population. There are detailed provision on humanitarian relief for the population in the occupied territory as well. So, at the receiving end of any ills are the civilian population, which is dealt with in the fourth convention. Okay. So, which are the countries that have signed it? There are 196 states, of which 193 members of the UN, United Nations, have already signed it, and the three protocols have been ratified by 174, 169 and 79 states respectively. Russia withdrew with the declaration under Article 90 of Protocol 1, and because of that it will be very hard to try Russia, because ICC, International Criminal Court, cannot at all have a trial in absentia. Russia is not a party to the Geneva Convention now, because it was actually having a potentiality back then. There were potential plans of invading Ukraine. That was in 2019. So they withdrew it. So India ratified the Geneva Convention in 1950 and also ratified the Protocol 3. But it is not a signatory to the additional protocols 1 and 2. Remember that. The regional delegation of ICRC in India was opened in 1982, and it came to the aid of victims of new conflicts breaking out. Not only in world, but in India. It helped for the Indian-Pakistan conflict of 1947, Sino-India 1962, 1965 and 1971 with Pakistan. And ICRC, it played a crucial role in getting the prisoners of war released in the 1962 war with China. Also, during the 1965 conflict with India and Pakistan, ICRC was a neutral and natural recognition to have a mediation between both the countries. So this is the level of cooperation. In 1970 war, the Bangladesh Liberation War, it played a huge role. Also in 1985, India signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, so that it permitted ICRC's visit to the persons arrested, detained and imprisoned in the context of the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. I hope you remember Wing Commander Abhinandan, who was captured in the territory of Pakistan but was protected by the Geneva Convention itself. So there were many conventions, there were many instances where India and the Geneva Convention were together. So what happens if it is violated? Now, under Article 8 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Code, International Criminal Court has the jurisdiction in respect of war crimes. So, war crimes, first of all, they need to be well in congruence with what Rome Statute declares. Okay. So, in case of the war in Ukraine, investigators will look into both the past and the present allegation, and it will also bring in the war crimes that might have been done by Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, in the annexation of Crimea. And after the annexation of Crimea was actually declared illegal occupation by the ICC, Russia in 2014 did annex Crimea. So in 2016, Russia said that we do not accept this jurisdiction of the ICC with respect to Crimea. So they withdrew from ICC as well. They withdrew from Geneva Convention, but before that they withdrew from ICC as well. Now, if there is enough evidence, ICC judges will issue arrest warrants to bring the accused to trials, and it cannot conduct a trial in absentia, that what I told you. Now, since Russia is not a member of the court, it is unlikely that the precedent will show up on his own. So, he would either have to be handed over by the Russian forces or taken into custody outside Russia. So, this is the level. In conclusion, there has been a statement I would like to tell you. With respect to the 4 of the 5 permanent members, as it is on the board, UK, US, France and Russia, Amnesty International on the 70th anniversary of Geneva Convention in 2019 have said that these countries were involved in blatant disrespect of human rights with respect to different wars. So you see, every country of the permanent 5, the unbridled powers, have made it very clear that it does not even matter to these countries if the other person is actually having a threat to humanitarian crimes, but they are all belonging to their own, they are all catering to their own selfish needs. How? Because US-led coalition's bombing of Raqqa and Syria, humanitarian crisis, war crimes, destruction of civilian infrastructure and lives in Aleppo and Idlib by Russian forces, this is a war crime according to Amnesty International, what they have said. And war in Yemen between the Saudi Arabia and the UAE-led coalition, which was backed by the West. So you see that we have to analyze when we give such unbridled powers, unparalleled and unmatched powers to the permanent 5 members. Of course, they will cater to their own selfish needs with the help of the Geneva Convention. But what if they refuse to keep a check on their own instances? Although the Geneva Convention puts a humanitarian pressure, it raises the awareness of human cause during wars. But if it does not provide justice, then it will be of no use. So better enforcement is needed in order for the general public to have a faith in the Geneva Convention. Let's move on to our question. Critically analyze the history of Geneva Convention and also shed a light on its more robust enforcement at the backdrop of the Russian-Ukraine war. Now you can write this in 250 words, okay? So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.